What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode. I'm your host, Disco, and today we're going to be talking about the 2024 presidential election. Now, I understand that is very far away, and to be more precise, I do not know. But that's a bit far fetched. But yeah, currently it is 604 days. So currently it's 604 days, 5 hours, 15 minutes, and an hour and 45 seconds away. Now, but what is that? Well, what's going to happen at 2024 election? Well, we do not know. We do not even have our nominees, and by this point, everything is so twisted up that we could be facing another rematch. We could be facing a Biden v. Haley. We could be facing we can be facing against Ron DeSantis, although he is constantly getting less and less popular. So, what are some nightmare scenarios? Well, let's look at some. And by nightmare scenario, I mean like what is the best case scenario for each party. We'll talk about one video for the Democratic Party, and the other one being for the Republican Party. Now, uh, for the Democratic Party, the nominee is going to be Joe Biden, and for the Republican Party, it's actually going to be Ron DeSantis. Trump is probably the one of the worst people I could think of. But then for the Democratic Party's best scenario, it will be Trump v. Biden, only because it will be a rematch. So that's the only reason. But all in all, let's get started. Let's get let's get started now. Let's talk about the presidential race. Now, who is this going to be about first? Well, let's make this the Republican scenario. Now, let's say Ron DeSantis, because Trump would be a really bad nominee for them, and Ron DeSantis is very, very conservative. And let's say Joe Biden. Okay, so let's say Ron DeSantis wins Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska's third congressional district, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's first congressional district, Missouri, Indiana, West Virginia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Alaska. Actually, I'm going to get rid of Florida in this scenario. It's still a Delaware. For Joe Biden, that would be Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine's first congressional district. For the best case scenario, Texas. I forgot about Texas. Texas would be solid. My bad. So what about for the Democrat? What about Republicans likely? Well, that would be a bit tricky. That would be Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, Maine 2nd Congressional District, Nebraska 2nd Congressional District, Nevada, pretty much it. For Biden, with Washington State, Oregon, Illinois, New York, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Delaware. Oh, I forgot the District of Columbia. What about for DeSantis lead? Well, that would be Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Georgia, and oh, I forgot about California. How could I forget about California being solid for the Democrats? How? But yeah, but it. But yeah, these are lean states: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Georgia. Now, Biden would win Colorado by a lean margin. On second thought, that'd be likely because the way it is, it rejected the extremism. Um, Even with a moderate candidate. For Till, it'll be Virginia, Maine at large, and New Mexico. Now, why did I say New Mexico and Virginia? Sorry. Well, in Virginia, if you can recall, Glenn Youngkin won the governor's race, and Trump campaigned there. There was still extremism in that race. Okay, is this ever gonna load? There you go. Yeah, Youngkin won the race, and frankly, so there's a chance that Ron DeSantis, if he touches that base again, he'll win. He'll win Virginia, only narrowly though. Along with New Mexico is actually getting less and less solid for the Democrats. If we go back to like, it's always had that bellwether type. New Mexico, if you look not on just the presidential scale, but on the Senate and the House elections, you'll see why. New Mexico, Gore won it narrowly, but then Bush won it narrowly. Obama shifted the state by solidly, and then Obama won it just over 10 points, but Clinton got it single digits, and Biden was able to improve upon Obama's margin back in 2012, but there's still an element of competitiveness. So it wouldn't surprise me if Ron DeSantis was able to flip New Mexico if he had his best scenario. On the House election, we're gonna go through past elections, not through the new one. If you actually go back to 2000, it actually there was two congressional districts that was for Republicans. Mike Udall. Oh, I didn't know he was one of them. But then, okay, solid. Okay, it's clear that these two are getting more competitive. 2004, I think one of these flipped, didn't it? No, it was Wilson that nearly lost. Okay, and then that's when they flipped. And then why didn't these two? Okay, this is where the solid Democratic regions are, and this is the competitiveness of weirdly enough, and then this is where it was. Okay, all right, and then they flipped it, right? Okay, yeah, they flipped it narrowly, and then did they ever? Yeah, this used to be competitive until Democrats were able to secure it solidly after the 2020 election. But yeah, onto the Senate. So this is where I think a dream scenario for Ron DeSantis would be 347 electoral votes to Biden's 291. Okay, so what about for the Senate? Well, this is the okay. What about for the Senate? Well, let's say they keep all their seats. Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska is special. Nebraska at large. Well, there's obviously LSC. They're all at large. North Dakota. Why is this in the way? Okay, my bad. Missouri, Indiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Florida. That's all I can think of. What about solids for Democrats? Washington. What about that other election? Was it ever competitive? Uh, Not in 2018 because that was a blue wave year. 20 points. Wait, Cantwell. Oh, smaller margin. That's weird though. That's a smaller margin though, and it shouldn't have been a smaller margin. So therefore, there was something going on there. What about 2006? It hasn't been competitive. Okay, it hasn't been competitive since 2000. So, oh God, I am sorry, sorry. My bad. Was there ever any predictions? No, it was just another 2000 scenario. So yeah, my bad. So but yeah, it doesn't look like we're gonna see any competitiveness on that. So what about for Democrats, as I was saying? New Mexico. Uh, no, this is the wrong thing. Okay, Maryland, Delaware, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Vermont, Maine, New York, and California. Those are all the ones I can think of. What about for likely states? Texas, Montana, uh, West Virginia. That's all I can think of. What about some other states? Washington is likely. New Jersey is likely. Virginia is likely. New Mexico would be likely. What about for lean states? Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, along with Arizona and Nevada. Minnesota would be lean, and Ohio would be tilt for Republicans. Why did I say Minnesota would flip? Would flip for the presidential election, but then stay within the for the Senate. Well, Klobuchar is very popular in Minnesota, has won numerous elections there by astounding margins of victory. Klobuchar won by 20 points in 2006. Then in 2012, won by 34 points, and then won by 24 points. May I remind you that Clinton won the state by, I believe, 4 points. I believe yeah, one. I think that was 1 point. Yeah, it was 1 point. It was 1.5 points. So there is an element of competitiveness in Minnesota. So yeah, so Republicans would gain 8 seats in the Senate. For the governor elections, for the Republicans, they would keep all their seats as of right now: Vermont, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Montana, and Utah. What about their other states? Delaware would also would also go for Democrats. I forgot to put that in there. For the other states, it would be Washington and Oregon would flip. No, well, not Washington and Oregon. Washington and North Carolina would flip. North Carolina would flip no matter what. It'd be by likely margin, and Washington would have to flip by a tilt margin. All the other ones would be solid because it's too close to call. Uh, for this election prediction, it'd be 29-21, but I flipped Louisiana and kept Andy Bashir's seat because this is the current prediction right now for 2023. For the House, this is when it gets really, really tricky because may I remind you that we still have some seats that are being redrawn. Um, there are still litigations in Alabama. South Carolina has to redraw them. Actually, a court found the map illegal, and they have to redraw them. In North Carolina, that map has to. Uh, assume that Republicans win, have to redraw their districts. Other ones have to make sure that their districts are within current boundaries. Ohio has to redraw theirs as well. They have to redraw them. So there's 2 states at a minimum that have to redraw their districts. So there's an element of change that could be involved. So let's start with the basics. Hawaii would be fine. Alaska would flip. Let's go for the deep south. No gains for Oklahoma, Arkansas. So there's in the deep south. There's not a lot of change because of how the deep south is. There's a lot of conservative and rural areas. Uh, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana all have one district for the Democrats because that's how they get away with like the rules. Georgia to be gained. Georgia's here. Seeing whoever developed these maps, please give them a round of applause. Bishop would lose his seat in the second congressional district. No gains for the Democrats here, although or Republicans. Florida's a big is God. I think there's 3 gains in my mind. 3 districts. That is the city of Miami, which is incredibly liberal. So let's say for peeps' sake that they don't that North Carolina keeps their congressional districts just for now because things can change. Uh, wow, we could be going back to the way things were. Wow, I didn't know that was possible. Indiana would gain. Okay, as a little context, North Carolina would gain 2 districts. Republicans would gain 2 districts. Virginia would gain 2. Indiana would gain 2. Let's put as an example right now. What could very much so happen? Um, so far they could gain 3 from Ohio. Uh, I'm just putting like what are the open ideas right now, and then putting the actual ones in. They can gain 2 from Michigan, obviously 1 from Maine, 1 from New Hampshire. There's 1 from Rhode Island and 1 from Connecticut. 1 from Connecticut. Uh, okay. In this scenario, the best case scenario for Republicans is George Santos to be out. Um, for this scenario specifically because George Santos is a drag on in New York right now, and they are constantly losing popularity over him. So in this case scenario, he is out. They wouldn't gain much. They would only gain 1 seat in the congressional districts in New York. What about in New Jersey? That's the big question of mine because there are some seats that were close to single digits. Okay. I could see the third going, but I can see the third and fifth going. Nothing else. And don't say because they're likely. No, because they're because the way they are, because this is in conservative area. That's in conservative area. This is heavily conservative area, and this is also in. It's in areas that are generally conservative, but Democrats would still have a good solid majority, wouldn't they? Yeah, they would slightly. Delaware would be fine. Maryland would have two gains for the Republicans. For Pennsylvania, there'd just be an onslaught for the Republicans. That'd be three gains in total. Four if they could gain this district here. So right now, Democrats haven't even cracked 90, and Republicans have 156 seats. Um, let's get this out of the way. Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of gains here. So far, I covered Montana, uh, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and so far Missouri. Um, there'd be one gain for the Republicans out of that. It would be Kansas. Uh, Iowa would be covered. There'd be one gain for the Republicans in Minnesota. Therefore, they would finally, for the first time it since. That's actually a good question. When was the last time Republicans held a majority in Minnesota's congressional districts? It would had to be years ago. Or not even at the surface. I think it's since Ronald Reagan's. Yep, during when Ronald Reagan was elected president, that was the last time Democrats had a solid. Well, Republicans had a firm majority, and they won these districts. But yeah, back to the point. Wisconsin, there'd be no gains for the Republican Party um due to redistricting. I see two gains so far for the Republicans. We're gonna put Illinois right now over there. There was a single digit race in Illinois. I just gotta find it. There was two. Yes, there's the 6th and there was the 14th. I'm gonna add both the 11th. We're gonna add this one, and we're gonna. So yeah, that's one, two, three, four, five congressional districts. There's two gains. Republicans would gain a solid majority in there. Two gains in New Mexico. They would gain two gains in Texas. Um, Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like quiet. It's because I'm trying to get this right. All right. Yeah, the I did not pre-plan this, so kind of going on the fly. It's a really bad idea. So Republicans have finally gained a majority, and it does look like it looks like tomato soup actually. Many pundits have called it that. All right, in Arizona, this is the current. They would gain one. We'd be back to where they would be back in 2011, 2000. Yeah, no. Yeah, back in the election of 2010. Yeah, they would gain three in Nevada. Okay, they would gain two in Washington. Okay, they would gain two in Oregon. California, one so far, two so far. My bad. They might actually break 270. If they do, I'm going to be shocked. Okay, there's another congressional district that flipped. If people think I'm using an algorithm, notes to yourselves, I am not. I'm actually doing this by hand. Yeah, they actually cracked 270 in this scenario. Yep, 273. What about that one? That district right there should have flipped. No, because yeah, that wouldn't flip. No, because that area is not flipping. No, but this area could flip if they wanted to. So yeah, this is my fine. This would be a dream scenario for the Republicans: 274 over 161 for the Democrats. And if I am correct, I am doing some math. 435. They just are shy of a constitutional majority. They need 16 more seats. Where could they get 16 more seats? They could. That would be very hard to get, especially because of the demographics. You'd be talking about gaining solid Democratic voters that wouldn't generally vote for a Republican in modern history. So, but yeah, but this is what we're looking at here. This is um Republican Ron DeSantis would win 347 electoral votes, gaining himself the presidency. Uh, Republicans would gain 8 seats in the Senate, their best gains in years. Republicans would have a net gain of 52 seats, would be the largest in one of the largest in history, and they would gain 2 governorships. Three if you're counting Louisiana, but still, who's counting? So yeah, this would be a dream scenario for the Republicans in 2024. But they have a lot of ground to make up because they lost a bunch of voters in 2022, and they have a lot of ground to gain in suburban areas. They have to appeal the idea. They would have to get rid of the idea of abortion in order to win, because what are the main factors that made them lose in the 2022 midterm elections? It was abortion, because there was numerous polls that came out that said 60% of Americans, or even over 55% of Americans, want abortion to be legal. Or another one, I'm gonna add the word. I'm gonna add fiscal and just say conservatism. It's fiscal conservatism that freaked people out. They moved themselves so far to the right that they couldn't veer themselves to the middle of in time for them un, to do that. They moved themselves so far to the right that when they couldn't veer themselves back to the middle in time. So yeah, will this happen? No. There's no way that my scenario that I just put up, I just predicted, would actually happen. That's a dream scenario. That's what people need to remember. But yeah, this is still a what if scenario. But yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Hit the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys on my next video. See ya.